to Houston Life. Lauren and Derrick back with you right now. If you didn't know, Saturday is World Whiskey Day, a time to highlight one of the most popular and beloved spirits in the U.S.
I'm glad we have World Whiskey Day.
Me too.
We needed this, right? Our next guest started the first whiskey distillery in Austin, and he's even written a book about whiskey's fascinating history in our state. Andrew Braunberg, welcome. It's great to have you here on Houston Live. Let's chat about this book, too, which you have on set. So it's called Fires, Floods, Explosions, and Bloodshed, A History of Texas Whiskey. My goodness, that sounds like it would make a great screenplay. How did this all begin, Andrew? Were you just obsessed with whiskey growing up?
No, I was not. I was a Scotch guy for quite a while, and then when the craft whiskey took off in the U.S., which was 10 or 15 years ago, I started really getting interested in thinking about the idea that America's going to have regional whiskey locations. And I think Texas is going to be one of those where we're going to have our own. You'll start going in and buying whiskey like you go into the wine store and you look for French or you look for, there'll be a big Texas section.
Definitely something that I feel I need to get educated in because I have absolutely no clue how to do it. But when you talk about writing a book on something like this, it's fascinating because I'm sure a lot of people don't realize the history behind the whiskey, right?
Yeah, so funny story there. The first Texas whiskey distiller post-Prohibition was Garrison Brothers. And when they started about 15 years ago, they put out a sign out front that said, first whiskey distillery ever in Texas.
Nice. I have been there.
That's a great tour,
yes,
right?
It's a great one.
But they had no idea that there was such a history there. And so when I got into it about 10 years ago in Texas and was thinking about starting a distillery in Austin, really got on my mind, like, well, what were they making back then? What kind of grains were they using? What were they making? Corn whiskey? Were they this? And started looking into it. And it really became clear really early that, boy, as tough as it is to start a whiskey distillery today, it was even harder back then. And that really was a rabbit hole to go down and say, can you believe how many things went wrong back then? It's just really amazing, yeah.
I bet they had fun trying, though, experimenting along the way. People might ask what sets apart Texas whiskey from other whiskeys. Obviously, the grains used here, the climate, those are all factors, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you've got a lot of entrepreneurship. So you've got over 100, you've got 200 distilleries in Texas already. So you've got a lot of people who really want to experiment. If you're doing a Texas whiskey, you really want to use Texas grains. So it helps to have such a great agricultural, state to do that. But the climate is that big one, right? You can get this Fierce Whiskers here is a 2-year-old rye. 2 years old isn't that? If you were in Kentucky, you wouldn't think much of a 2-year-old product, or in Scotland, obviously. Down in Texas, you can get a lot of flavor out of 2 years.
What would you say is like a big, long in Scotland or in Kentucky? How many years would be a significant?
Yeah, well, I mean, like I said, I used to be a kind of a Scotch nerd, and an 18-year-old Scotch, 16-year-old Scotch. If you had an 18-year-old Texas whiskey, you probably couldn't drink it.
Whew!
Right?
It'd be the Fierce Whiskers right there.
Okay, you brought a couple bottles today. I know the second one is 90 proof. Is that right?
No, the Fierce Whiskers, and this is their first product coming out next month. So sneak peek here. It's about 90 proof, which for me is a nice, because boy, yeah, it'll make a nice Manhattan, right?
Wow.
But it's good neat too. So I got a neat to show you. Now the Still Austin is a bourbon, but it's a cask strength.
Okay.
So instead of watering it down out of the barrel, they're just going to send it to you in the bottle. So this one's more like 120 proof, which is why I brought a little water for you guys.
Hold on.
You sure it's not called fire?
So people can drink it on its own, but you recommend
diluting it.
Well, look, my first rule about drinking whiskey is don't tell people how to drink whiskey. Look, you're going to buy it. You know what? If you want to drink with Dr. Pepper, God bless, right?
Okay.
But these are nice whiskeys. What I'm trying to say is Texas is making some nice whiskeys now. I think we can enjoy them
on their own.
On their own.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Okay, so Andrew, this one was the
rye, the Fierce Whiskers rye.
Fierce Whiskers.
And that's about 70% rye, 20% wheat, and about 10%.
Silly question. You don't shoot this. This is a sipper, right?
Correct.
A small sipper?
And so that brings up the glassware.
Yeah.
Right. So this is not a shot glass, but it's not a cocktail glass either. It's called a Glencairn glass. And if you ever do a distillery tour, this is the only glass you'll see anywhere. It's got this bulb that lets it get a nose, kind of the vapors are coming off there, but you can Get your nose in it. You want to give it a little. Now, when you do that with this one, be careful. Because it's 120, right?
It's going to
Burn
burn
the
my nose
nostril.
hairs.
But this rye, it's got that really characteristic spicy note on the back.
Okay.
It's not as sweet as a
Okay.
bourbon, but I pick up a little apricot on the very back end. If you let it sit a little, and it'll give you a really nice apricot note.
And you could or could not pour it over ice. I see you brought the ice, but I'm going to skip the ice for now. I just
It's
want to
good.
taste.
It's warming my.
You want a little water for that, though?
I think I'm
All
going to
right.
try it without the water.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is what, 120 proof?
Just about.
This would go well with pasta, our secret code word of
Yeah.
Okay.
the day. Okay.
Go ahead.
The sniff is not as intense as I thought. Okay, 120
Yeah.
proof.
Yeah.
Give it a go.
I like it. I like it.
That's a good
Yeah?
drinker.
Okay.
And if you've ever, a paper plane would be a really nice cocktail for something like this, a cast strength, you know.
What's in a
kinda-
paper
Yeah,
plane?
what's that?
I don't think I've had that.
Yeah, it's more of a modern classic. Lemon juice, Amaro, Nonino, and Aperol, all in
Oh,
equal parts with the bourbon. Give it a shake, a wonderful
Nice and
drink.
cold. Okay,
and serve it up in a coupe.
In the
We-
coop.
Okay.
All right, all right, you guys are being so tough. I'm gonna try this one.
Andrew, I mean, we can't embarrass ourselves
Oh.
in front of you, the whiskey
But you
expert.
notice how different that nose is, though, right? It's a very different.
Wow.
Yeah.
Can you describe to us what you're feeling, Lauren?
Fire. I am feeling it go down, down, down into my belly.
You
That's
said you
amazing.
wanted to be warm.
You're right. I am sweating now. That's good, though.
The good and bad about stereotypically women is they're better tasters, they're better blenders. All the best blenders tend to be women. It takes a little getting used to the
Yeah.
burn, but then you've got all those taste buds to really be a good
Get
taste.
used
We're
to
not
the burn.
surprised.
I like it.
Women are
yes.
better at most things
There
anyway,
you go,
right?
right?
Cheers, Andrew. Thank
Yes,
you so
thank
much
you
for stopping
so, so
by.
much.
Yeah.
And thank
Great.
you for starting the first distillery for whiskey in Austin.
Yeah,
Happy
absolutely.
National Whiskey Day coming up on
Cheers.
Saturday.
Yeah.
Paper planes, we should make some.
Let's definitely make that. We'll get that
Yes.
recipe from
Not the
you.
kind you fly, the kind
No.
you drink.
And a reminder, you can find his book, Fires, Floods, Explosions, and Bloodshed, A History of Texas Whiskey, everywhere books are sold. For a link to get your copy, visit the Scene on Houston Life section of our website at houstonlife.tv.
That really is good stuff.
Yeah.
No need to even water it down.
Yeah.
All right, Andrew. Thanks again.